All right. So let's talk Perry Mason Season 2, Episode 6. So we're only two episodes. Including this, we're two episodes away from the end. There's 8 episodes this season. And we have this major conundrum that comes up. But that is the least of this episode. This episode is showing, especially Paul, losing his damn mind. Now, he, unlike Perry, he has a reason for it. It just sucks that this is 1930s and men were taught that emotion's bad, so can't talk about it, even though, he was willing to ask Clara, am I good? So you would think that Clara would be cool with him unloading on her what actually happened. But anyway, the show starts off with shoes hanging from telephone wires. Either telephone or, some type of electrical wires. And this kid who just so happens to not have shoes, that's convenient, decides he wants to get down the shoes. Now, at first I thought that this was something completely different and someone played a prank on him. But considering what happened after he got the shoes down and he saw blood on the shoelaces and momentarily paused and then continued lacing it up, it's obvious his only point in this show was to fuck with Paul. Because we've got to show Paul just losing it completely. So now we have it. What seems like they're going to win this case. They're talking with Councilman Taylor, and Perry is questioning him, and being Perry. Now, he also has his mind on the fact that somebody had broken into his house, which we figure out later is Pete. And because Pete tries again. Because the assistant DA is a dick, and he really, really, really wants something to hang Perry with. So he not only gets a double bolt, he also gets his big ass chain and attaches it to his kitchen counter and goes out the fire escape. And you would think that he would remember this by the end of the episode, but apparently not. So they are questioning Councilman Taylor. Well, first off, it's the prosecution. And of course, they're being very kind to him because some people seem to think that just by virtue of being a councilman that you have to, give them some respect because just like Brooks McCutcheon, he just automatically deserves your undying respect just simply for being rich. Which is not the way respect should work. So, Perry takes over, and the secretary comes in, and she gives some information. Now, before I continue, this show is usually really good about details. Rafa thought that, we're getting out, and so he starts packing up his things. But what does he do? He tells off a guard. I'm sorry, could you at least wait till you were on the other side of the bars before you do that? You shouldn't do it then, but at least that makes more sense. So they haul him off. And Mateo's trying to plead with them that he'll deal with his brother. So, but he looked fine in the courtroom. No bruising, no nothing. It's like he isn't currently in jail, slowly losing his goddamn mind. I mean, he doesn't talk to Mateo. He then does this shit because, now granted, things were looking good at this time because when they were talking to Councilman Taylor, when they were questioning him on the stand, Della took over. Now, except for the visual of the belt being around her neck, considering what the subject matter was, I can kind of see why they wanted Della to do that, but at the same time, this is Perry's origin story, not Della's. And actually, Della is seriously bugging the shit out of me. So, yeah. But anyway, so Della decides to continue questioning him because this is a delicate matter, and so somehow her being a woman would make things seem a little less in your face, which she then proceeds to act just like Perry would. I'm sorry, what is this gentler take that you thought just simply because you're a woman that the jury will automatically see everything in a gentler light? I do not understand that at all. But so he lets Della take over, and both the assistant DA and the judge are dubious because sexism. And so, and by the way, for those who don't know, coitus is sex. So she's talking to Councilman Taylor, and he initially continues with his story about her being in a car accident. And this just proved my theory wrong. And unfortunately, I have a new theory, but we'll get to that. So, Della mentions Noreen's medical records, which they got from Holcomb, because Holcomb did not want to be subpoenaed. Paul gave him the subpoena, and he was way too happy about it. This was the only time this episode I really liked Paul. Paul was really annoying me. I mean, granted, he had a good reason to act like a dick, but he still acted like a dick. I shouldn't say he had a good reason, but it's understandable why he was having issues. Let's put it that way. So, Holcomb went up to Perry, and he told Perry what kind of a lock he should get for his office. And of course, he was putting a lock on because someone broke into his apartment. And damn it if he shouldn't have listened to Holcomb. He's only a cop. You think he would know these things. I mean, yeah, he's a dirty cop, but he's still a cop. And because he's a dirty cop, he's like, I do not want to testify. If I testify, people are going to find out I'm a dirty cop, and that's going to destroy me. Which I'm like, dude, I thought you wanted to leave LA. This is a great excuse to do that, but anyway. So, he tries to plead with Perry, and Perry's having none of it. And so he's like, just come with me to the beach. I want to show you something. And Perry's like, I'm not going anywhere with you. What the hell? After what happened last year? No, I'm not doing that. So, he's like, fine, I'll go with you, but I want insurance. He's like, what insurance? And that's when we see the Sandhaven medical records in the next scene. That he wanted Holcomb to use his influence to, or as he put it, to abuse his power, which he's perfectly fine doing, to get the medical records. Now, nowhere at the time did the judge or the councilman ask, wait, how did you get my sister's records? How is it nobody thought to ask, wait a minute. I mean, I realize privacy laws weren't what they are now, but still. Doesn't it give you at least some pause that, wait, what are you doing with her medical records? So that's what they were reading from and showing the pictures of Noreen and showing the bruising on her. So I was wrong. It turns out it was Brooks's kinky sex play that caused this. So apparently a bunch of blood vessels burst. And they even had the girl from the gambling boat who we saw in the first episode there in the courtroom, and she had given her testimony as to what had happened with Brooks, that he had a penchant for doing that, grabbing girls unaware. I mean, I assume that they're unaware while they're having sex, not that he just grabs a random girl on the street and starts choking her. And that he did this sex play, and he did it with Noreen. And unlike this other girl, it went horribly wrong. And now she's catatonic. So, they're going over this, and that they finally got the councilman to admit that she was strangled. And they're trying to not necessarily pin it on him, but they're trying Brooks's death, but they are trying to establish a motive. Even though the councilman is desperately trying to avoid that. And the councilman keeps looking at Lydell, and as if to apologize for what is happening. And Lydell, you could see he's just crushed. Not so much that, about what happened to Noreen, but the fact that all of this is coming out. That his son is a monster. Because remember, this is the 30s. I mean, obviously this is not the most known kink even now, but in the 30s, it never would occur to anyone, most people anyway, to have that kink. Kinks are pushed aside because you don't talk about these things. So it wasn't exactly a well-known thing. So, and Perry thinks that it was Lydell who had someone break into his home, which it wasn't. It was the assistant DA, who pretty much is just as much of a scumbag. And because all the laws people are breaking just to defend the law. It's like, But anyway, so, Pete actually manages to break into the office. Now, this was after, the night of, Perry Della and Ginny kind of meeting. Because she comes to pick up Perry. And Della said that, well done, Perry, she looks tasty. Which to me was both creepy and also sweet that they're in such a good terms that they can talk about what they think of each other's significant other. So Ginny calls him out on it, saying that she overheard Della saying this, which comes back to bite her in the butt later, where she's like, that's a new one. And she even asks him if there's something going on or that there had been something going on between her and Perry. And he's like, we're different. Of course, we know what he means by we're different. And plus the fact that Della called Ginny tasty, you would think that would have, that she would have had a light bulb moment, but nope, doesn't seem like she did. Either that or everybody that Perry seems to surround himself as friends don't seem to care that she's a lesbian, which, again, this is the 30s, and that shit was illegal. So, I'm waiting for consequence. Pete followed Della to this lesbian club. Obviously, either he is just laser focused on Barry, or he's perfectly cool with the fact that she went to a gay nightclub. Either way, I'm waiting for someone to have a fit about it, because most people were not accepting of it. That's why it was illegal. Not that laws necessarily have to go with what's popular, depending. But at this time, I would think most lawmakers actually gave a shit about that. But anyway, so later on, like I said, Pete breaks into the office, and at the trial, the assistant DA has a sidebar, and he brings up the fact that the murder weapon was found in Perry's safe. Now, based on the fact that Ham said later that ballistic tests need to be done, how the holy hell did they know that was the murder weapon? They didn't do ballistics, and it seems like nobody seems to give a shit about trying to take fingerprints, because, that might help. Because, especially since this is a gun for rent, there's probably a lot of fingerprints on there, but okay, whatever. So, now, granted, Perry and Paul allowed this, but what the fuck, Della? She knows that has to be shown in discovery. You can't be hiding evidence. She's the one who put it in the safe. Like I said, Perry and Paul didn't stop her, which, obviously is coming back to bite them in the ass. But it was Della's idea. So, is that why she never opens her own practice? Because it's discovered that she sees it perfectly fine to hide evidence that she doesn't want the other side to see? Because I'm assuming that they're not completely diverging from the original Perry Mason, and because she never did open her law practice. Della was a secretary. during the 60s show. So I'm going to assume that maybe this is what screws her over, or maybe it's discovered she's a lesbian, because Pete still knows that, and I don't know if he said anything to the assistant DA or not, that they're concentrating on Perry. But again, it's illegal. So why is this not a bigger deal than it is? But anyway, so the judge calls both lawyers clowns. So he's fed up with both of them. And now it ends with, I'm not going to charge Perry with contempt of court, but that could still happen. So it ends with Perry getting so mad that this was discovered, so mad that his brain just completely leaves his body. He asked Della if she talked to Anita about the case. And again, who the hell would go home and say, oh yeah, we have a murder weapon in our safe that we don't want to, give to the opposition. Nobody would say that to anybody. And so there's that. So he asks Della, he asked Paul, and Paul is like, don't even try me, bro. No. So he goes to the guest book, which it's odd that he didn't do the nth degree to the secretary, which, she's kind of there too. Now, obviously, she's not the one who did this, but Perry didn't respond to her. I mean, does he think so little of her that never occurred to him? So the last person who signed the guest book was Ginny. Now, granted, that's a logical way to go about it, but you said it yourself. Someone broke into your office. I guess he was so convinced it was Lydell that broke into his house that it never occurred to him that someone would break in and into his office and find the gun. I don't know, but it just seemed weird that line of reasoning never crossed his mind. He sees Ginny was the last person to sign in, so he confronts her, and not very nicely. But Ginny doesn't help herself out at all by when Perry said, "What did you overhear Della say?" Now, first off, nowhere did Della say that. It's not like they greet each other and say goodbye to each other with, "See ya, we have a murder weapon in our safe." I don't know what Perry thought that Ginny overheard that was so incriminating that people would now know that there's a gun in his safe. But again, Ginny did not help herself out by previously saying that, she overheard Della say that she's tasty, and this time say, "I didn't hear anything." Not a good start, considering, Perry probably remembers that's why he was confronting her. So, and she sounds legit scared. And Perry's like, "So help me God, if you're lying." She's like, "You'll do what?" So even though Ginny is scared as how Perry is acting, she still is with it enough that she can confront Perry for saying really dumb shit. And the entire time she's trying to calm him down. And he just leaves and says, "You're full of shit," and storms out. And Ginny's like, what the hell is going on? And I'm sure that this is the show's way of saying, oh, by the way, this happy relationship that Perry seems to have, not gonna last. And, because, I'm pretty sure Ginny's not gonna want to have anything to do with Perry now. Even if he does apologize and finds out that, that Pete was the one who did it. But, I doubt Ginny's going to forgive him for this because, Jesus Christ, he had no basis whatsoever except that she was the last person to sign in. I mean, it's not like anything was said that would imply that there's a gun in the safe. And besides, so what if there's a gun in the safe? That doesn't mean it's the murder weapon. I mean, it's just, So they're going to run ballistic tests to find out if it truly is the murder weapon. So things just went from really high to low. So, yeah. And there's only 2 episodes left, so it's going to be interesting to see what rabbit Perry pulls out of his hat. Because, like I said, there's only 2 episodes left, and we've got a lot to figure out. We've got to figure out who hired the Gallardos, or at least we have to get the heat off the Gallardos. So, because again, I still think they just took the fall for the murder, not that they actually did the murder. So, at least get enough reasonable doubt to get the Gallardos off. And, now Perry has to fight for his legal life because, he withheld evidence. I mean, that's not going to go over well. The judge has no humor about that whatsoever. And plus we now have Perry going to see Holcomb at the beach, and there's all this thrown away produce covered in oil. So, what the hell? Was there an oil spill? Was there what are the McCutcheons covering up? And Holcomb's like, I can't put these pieces together. Perry's like, don't look at me. I have no idea what this is. So, yeah. Yeah, that's how the trial ends for Perry. He's got this new piece of evidence, so we have 2 episodes for Perry to save his own ass, to get the Gallardos off, to maybe find out who hired them to begin with. Because I don't know if it was Councilman Taylor. And then we have to find out what the hell it is with the fruit and covered in oil. Now, I just remembered I forgot to tell you about my new theory. Camilla Nygaard. Now, at first I thought that this was going to be some hardcore drugs and that's why Noreen was catatonic. But Camilla, the woman who's all about the health craze, is also not above having a joint. So, she likes to smoke marijuana. So, what if that is the wife that Ozzy was talking about, who would come to him to get more drugs? And that Camilla is somehow involved in all this, even though it doesn't seem like it seems like all she is a therapist for Della. So, now I'm back to questioning Camilla and how involved she is in all of this. Now, speaking of therapists, Paul. Let's talk about him slowly going completely insane and destroying his relationships in the process. So, like I said, I think the whole point of that kid wearing those sneakers was simply to fuck with Paul's head. Apparently, he's not sleeping, he's tossing in his sleep, and he's mumbling, which it's just too bad that his wife does not know what he is saying, because, like I said, someone who asks her, "Am I good?" and she assures him, sounds like this would be a perfect candidate, first for him to open up about what happened, and for his wife for Clara to listen to him and to help him through that. But Paul does neither of those things. He is keeping everything inside. He sees the kid, he accosts him, and Clara is like, "What the hell?" Because they're supposed to be on date night. So, and he snaps at her for daring to stop him, as if she's just one of his co-workers as opposed to his wife. And he immediately realizes that he totally made a mistake with that one. And fast forward to him asking Mo for help for the stakeout that he's doing. So he tells Mo what to do, and Mo does what he asked him to do, but Paul snaps at him because it wasn't good enough. And Mo is like, "What the hell do you want from me? I did the best I could. If I could see what you wanted, I wrote it down. If I couldn't make it out, I didn't." Which sounds perfectly reasonable. And so Paul just jumps down his throat. And Clara, of course, takes his side because Paul is being a serious ass right now. And Paul is just beside himself that Clara would take her brother's side. Now, normally, yes, a married couple should defend each other. That's fine. However, if you're completely off your rocker, no, Clara has no obligation to defend you when you're the one being a dick. So, Paul goes out and he does his stakeout. And of course, he's having a hard time staying awake because he can't sleep anyway. So, God knows when was the last time he had a good night's sleep. I mean, he's having PTSD over almost killing a man. And I know it's almost because after this past episode, Chris Chalk mentions that he's having issues with almost killing a man, which you can only imagine Perkins and his men actually did off Ozzie Jackson, because why else would his shoes be up there? So I'm gonna say Ozzie's dead, and that Perkins would have killed him with or without Paul. But yeah, I can see why Paul is having issues with this trauma, because he never wanted to do that. So, but which is why it's maddening that he's willing to open up to Clara a little bit, but he's not willing to just say the whole thing. This is what Perkins made me do, and I'm having a rough time with it. Because right now, all people see is that Paul is lashing out for no good reason. So, I mean, is this going to be the end of his marriage? Is Clara going to leave him because he can't, open up about what's bothering him to the point that he could, I don't know, feel better? So, yeah. Yeah, so Paul sees the kid again, which at this point it's like, is this a figment of his imagination? Because he's always there where he's not supposed to be. So Paul gets out of the car and he wants to run after the kid, but the kid disappears, which, like I said, makes you wonder if he's a figment of his imagination or if Perkins is doing this on purpose. He wants the kid to follow Paul so he can just make Paul's trauma even worse, because it's just bizarre that the kid just runs across his car and almost gets hit. It's very bizarre. But whatever car he was going to follow, of course, by this time was gone. So, yeah, Paul is left in the middle of the street just looking around, lost. And, like I said, I really, really hope that somehow, some way, he works through what has happened, because right now I don't like this Paul very much. I don't like this Paul. I don't like this Della. Perry, yeah, I'm getting to the point where I don't like anybody on the show. Ham, we don't know enough about him to know his motivation for why he's acting the way he does. But like Della asked him, I know you can't tell me who asked you to come up with this deal, but are you okay? That's all I want to know. And he can't even tell her that. I realize men are taught not to show their emotion, but but what's wrong with saying I'm fine as opposed to, good luck with your case? I mean, that was just ominous. So, yeah. None of the guys are anywhere close to being in touch with their feelings. Or maybe Ham is in touch with his feelings, but, you can't talk about a guy can't talk about his feelings in public because, well, then they would assume you're gay, which in Ham's case is true, but so, let's see. Who else? Um, I believe I've covered everything, but yeah, I think that it's going to turn out that it's Camilla who hired the boys. Either Camilla or her lawyer. The one who said, I'm going to go home to my real wife. Because he's her butler or whatever. So it's just very bizarre because we don't know why Camilla would want Brooks dead. We just know that Camilla thinks he's an absolute moron. But we don't know why she would want him dead. So maybe because she knows about Noreen and is disgusted by it. So yeah, I'm really curious if I'm wrong again about Camilla. And I think I've covered everything from this episode. Everything that really made any, you know, was worth talking about. It would have been interesting if we saw Della talking to Hazel when she was saying goodbye, because she was moving in with Anita. It would have been interesting to see if she would finally confess what's going on, or how that went, because nothing was said about it. But yeah, I think I covered everything that needs covering. And with that, I will see you in the next video.